Thank you so much, Joe. So let's call this BTAC meeting to order. Romella, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair Garcia. Member Yolanda Eisenstein. Please
Yolanda,
mute yourself.
you'll need to take
Member
yourself off of
Eisenstein.
mute.
She's muted.
Sorry about that. Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Member Bruce
Great.
Finger.
Here.
Member Judith Gabriel.
Here.
Member Robert Morlino.
Here.
Member Sid Redner. He's excused. He is in Canada. Member Yvette Serrano.
Here.
Member Khalil Spencer.
Here.
Member Sky Tolman.
Here.
And Chair Michael Garcia.
Present.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Romella. Next up is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to our agenda?
Mr. Chair, I would like to request an amendment of the agenda.
Yes.
Agenda item 7 currently, it should be agenda item 8. I wish to add introductions as agenda item 7. 7.A is opening remarks from the chair because we have new members of BTAC. And 7.B is a self-introduction from, brief introduction from members of BTAC.
Okay.
Oh, an additional one. Now the current agenda item 7.D.1 should be 8.D.1. Section 12-8-15, riding on sidewalks. Romella Glorioso Moss, staff liaison. It should be Romella Glorioso Moss, staff liaison on behalf of Ms. Ann Young, District 1 resident.
Okay. Any other changes from the committee members? Sorry, Romella, was that all that you might have had?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other changes on behalf of the committee members? Okay, hearing none, can I get an approval of our agenda?
Move to approve the agenda. A second.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Cal, a second. It sounded like Rob. Can I get a roll call, please?
Member Yolanda Eisenstein,
Yes, here.
do you vote yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Member Finger,
Yes.
Member Gabriel,
Yes.
Member Morlino,
Yes.
Member Serrano,
Yes.
Member Spencer,
Yes.
Member Tolman,
Yes.
Chair Garcia.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Great. Thank you, Romella. Next up is the approval of the minutes. So last time we met was on February 19th. Hopefully everybody has had time to review the minutes. Do we have any changes to the minutes? And if not, can I get a motion to approve, please?
This is Judith. I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay, so I think I heard Rob first, and then who was the second?
Judith Gabriel, I second.
Okay, thank you, Judith. Can I get a roll call, please?
Member Eisenstein,
I'll abstain from voting. I was not a member of the committee at that point.
Member Finger,
I wasn't there, but I read it over. It's okay.
Member Gabriel,
I wasn't a member of the committee either, but I did review them and I approve.
Member Morlino,
Yes.
Member Serrano,
I also wasn't a member, but I approve.
Member Spencer,
Approve. Yes.
Member Tolman,
Yes.
Chair Garcia,
Yes.
the motion passes.
Okay, thank you so much. Next up on the agenda is citizen communications from the floor. Do we have any community members that would like to speak? And I'm going to take a look, and if you do, please raise your hand.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
there are
Romella.
2 written comments
Okay,
that were sent to the staff liaison. If there are
Okay.
no one on the floor, Mr.
I
Chair, I
don't see any.
think Miss Elena Kayak would like to speak.
Sorry,
Okay.
I can't find the raise your hand
Oh,
icon.
no worries.
I just wanted to thank the amazing crew at the Santa Fe MPO for enabling the Safe Routes to School grant to actually come to fruition in our city. An amazing feat over the last, since April 2019, they've been working hard at it. And of course, thank the city's Parks and Rec for collaborating with them. And that's in under 2 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elena. I really appreciate it. I'm going to take another look at the participants, see if anybody has their hand up, and if not, and if you are in the meeting, feel free to just unmute yourself and say you would like to make a comment if you're from the public. Okay, hearing none other. Miss Romella, go ahead. And how long are the statements?
Oh, one is just one line or 2 lines, and the other one is kind of 3 paragraphs.
Okay, I think we have time to
Okay,
go ahead and listen to those 3.
The first one is from Mr. Jacob Heiser. It was sent yesterday at 2:55. His comments is, could bike lanes be swept more often than they get swept currently? The debris greatly reduced the size and safety of the bike lanes. The second comment came from Mr. Nathan Lemons. It was sent early this morning. And his comment is regarding the request to prohibit bicycling on sidewalks in Santa Fe. That is referring to agenda item 8.D.1. So his comment says, he says, I also live in downtown Santa Fe and often bicycle on the very stretch of sidewalk Miss Ann Young refers to. Open parenthesis, is Alameda between Delgado and Guadalupe, close parenthesis. I have 2 young kids, age 6 and 9, and we bicycle on this sidewalk to get to the rail yard, to the river and rail trails, and to my parents' house in Casa Solana from our house. I believe asking our kids or any kids to ride their bikes on the street would be extremely irresponsible. Little kids have little bikes. I doubt most drivers would even see a 6-year-old in the street from inside a huge truck or SUV, which dominate the streets these days. The result is that all but most confident bicyclists do not feel comfortable using them. I myself do not ride on the sidewalk unless I am with my kids, but my wife does not feel comfortable riding her bike in the street, and I understand why. Riding on East Alameda in particular is quite stressful as there is a lot of traffic, a lot of parked cars, a lot of tourists who do not know their way around the city, and there is no room for cars to safely pass bicyclists. Going east on East Alameda with my kids would be particularly interesting if forced to use the street. I estimate we go uphill at a speed of approximately 3 to 6 miles per hour. It is difficult to imagine cars putting up with a family doing that in front of them in the street. I agree that pedestrians should be able to feel safe on sidewalks. We have tried to teach our kids to be cognizant of pedestrians and to yield to them on trails and sidewalks. I think it is unfair to punish the whole bicycling community because some people do not follow the rules. We do not ban cars from streets even though plenty of drivers do not follow the speed limit, etc. Rather, the solution is to provide larger sidewalks and or dedicated bike lanes, as well as to better educate the public on who has the right of way, as Ms. Ann Yang requested. Forcing bicyclists onto the road will increase bicycle fatalities, reduce the number of kids and adults who bike as a form of transportation, and lead to increased tensions between bicyclists and motorists. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Romella. I really appreciate that. And just please make sure to enter that as part of the minutes. That way they're recorded.
I will, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other, one last call for comments from the public? Check the list. Okay, I don't see any hands up, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our next item, which is presentations. So the first presentation we have is from the Santa Fe Metropolitan Planning Organization, and Mr. Kuhn is with us. Are you with us now, Mr. Kuhn?
Yeah, it's on.
Great, great. Okay, so the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be here. I see there's some new faces on the committee, so I'm going to do a quick introduction of myself, and Leah Ingvey is on the call. First of all, my name is Eric Ani. I work for the Santa Fe MPO as their officer. We've been working for the city and the MPO now for about 7 years. And then I'll have Leah turn on her camera and say hello really quickly.
Hi, for some reason I don't seem to be able to turn on my camera, but I am Leah Ingvey, transportation planner with the MPO. I've been here for a little over a year, and I do ride my bike for transportation.
Right on. So, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I just have a few short items to update the board as to some relevant issues going on. Thanks to Alana Kayak, who just mentioned about the Safe Routes to School program. The city of Santa Fe has let an RFP as of just this Tuesday for consulting services to fund or to implement that grant. We're looking forward to that. Number two on our list is that just recently the city was able to find funding, which they had lost given the COVID situation, for what is a substantive multimodal study for the city. This is about $250,000 investment in planning as it relates to transit, bicycles, and pedestrians, and a well-rounded and comprehensive approach. This also includes a 5-year transit service study that will serve the city and the regional area in terms of how transit is provided. Item number 3, I just want to make mention that MPO staff, including Hannah Burnham, who may be on the call, but can't, for whatever reason, can't get on the video again. But the 3 of us had a really engaging meeting with Councilor Garcia. We appreciate your time, and Romella, just to articulate the MPO's role, introduce ourselves to the councilor, and say, here's how we can help and support not only the city, but the BTAC. And then lastly, we have got a couple things going on right now. We released what is kind of a fun thing. It's a youth photo competition as it relates to urban design and transportation. We were able to garner some funds from the American Planning Association and actually have cash prizes. So you can find out more, and we'd love your help, or anybody on this call, to help get the word out to youth in the community to participate in a really cool photo competition. What we're going to use those photos for, then we'll be able to advance in terms of visually a lot of the good work we're doing in the field. And then lastly, since this committee last met in February, we had a very successful May in that the MPO Policy Board, which is made up of the county, the city, the NDOT, and the Pueblo of Tesuque, adopted the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, as well as a number of other significant MPO documents, all which you can, if you're interested in, can be found at our website, santafempo.org. That is it. We appreciate your time. I'll stand for questions.
And thank you, Eric, and I apologize for giving you a new last name. It's Ane. I think I called you Akune. I completely apologize for that. Does any of the committee members have any questions?
Where is there information on the youth photo competition? Is that on the MBO website?
Yeah, it's really slick that what we were able to create was basically an online portal for uploading photos. So it's on the front page. We're trying to get the word out via social media and all that good stuff.
And actually, I did just share in the chat the link, so you can click that to find it.
Okay, thank you, Leah. And Romella, would you mind sharing that link via email to all the BTAC members?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for our presenters? Okay, hearing none. Eric and Leah, thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to the future collaboration with you all. We'll go ahead and move on to the next presentation, which is the Santa Fe Police Department, and Deputy Chief Paul Joy is presenting. Deputy Chief, are you with us? Or maybe Captain Champlain?
Yep, I'm actually going to be here for Deputy Chief Paul Joy. He's not available.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
The floor is all yours.
Okay, this is my first appearance here at the BTAC, and I've heard watching you guys, there's a bunch of new members, so I'll introduce myself a little bit. My name is Captain Matt Champlin. I oversee the patrol division and the support operations section here at the police department. So the patrol division would be any of our patrol officers out there in uniform, and then the support operations section carries our bike team, our DWI team, our traffic unit, and our animal services unit. With that being said, I put together a very small presentation just based on some of the questions that were sent to me regarding the agenda. Mr. Chair, I know that you are very data driven, and especially in comparative data and whatnot. So I do have a little bit of that in there. It's only about 5 slides, but I can, and I think Mr. Beta gave me the ability to share my screen here. And I can do that now if that's allowable. Okay.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes, Captain, we can.
All right, so what we're gonna discuss a little bit is a little bit of the tunnels, a little bit of the statistical issues that we have, and what we're doing right now as far as police efforts with the tunnels. So a little bit of background as far as the tunnels coming to light. There were a couple instances, but one that stood out was the one that was, I believe, talked about in the Santa Fe New Mexican, but it was on the July 29th, we received a report. There was assault. A female was assaulted in the tunnel. A homeless individual attempted to grab her. She was actually walking into the tunnel, and the homeless individual was out in the park and followed her into the tunnel. So he wasn't already in the tunnel, but he did follow her into the tunnel. Besides that, we've had various reports of syringes, in and around the tunnels, trash, homeless camps, and things of that nature. And the police department was then and is now still in the process of kind of researching the data regarding the crimes occurring that's in the tunnel. And that'll kind of bring me into the next slide here. So a little bit of the statistical challenges that we have with the tunnels, and that is that the tunnels and the underpasses, they do not have addresses. So why is that important? With no address, our new system, we work with the one solution system now, which is a very good system for data, but that data is derived from address points. So if we don't have an address to assign to a particular location, we get generalized data. And I'll kind of give you an example of that. If the St. Francis and Cerrillos tunnel that we consider the one that goes under St. Francis and the rail yard, if we were to pull the data for that area, we would obtain all of the data within many, many blocks of that area, giving us a very skewed view of what's actually occurring within the tunnel itself. So I'm working with Julie Salazar at the Regional Emergency Communication Center and the GIS group department here within the city of Santa Fe to try to assign at least the tunnels for right now that we have identified. You see there on the left, tunnels 1 through 8. We're trying to get them actual addresses of some type through our GIS group, because GIS maps are then uploaded into our police data system and then can be assigned so that we can pull data and actually make easier and more efficient effort, if you will, as far as police efforts go. So the best comparative data, Mr. Chair, that I could come up with, at least at this time, is these are some of the call types that have happened specifically at the tunnel that was discussed, at least mentioned in the agenda, which is that tunnel at St. Francis and the rail yard of Cerrillos. There's been a few things there. Our system came into effect on June 18th. That's when the new system went live and we started gathering our data from it. So the old system, I don't have access to that right now, but the new system was on June 18th. So I went back, I had our analysts go back and pull all the way back from the 18th until now to see kind of what's been happening. So we do have, some man down type situations that could be where somebody was passed out, intoxicated, or something to that effect. There was that July 29th assault. And then on the 20th, there was a suspicious person. We've had some liquor law violations. So when we ask ourselves, how do we compare this data to other parts of the city? It's difficult in the aspect of the demographics that we see within the tunnels. And that being generally the homeless population that kind of camp in the tunnel. They do use some drugs or some other nefarious activity that's in the tunnel. So we looked at the Midtown shelter and Harrison Road. Those are two comparative things, at least in my opinion, because it's kind of the same demographic of a little bit of the homeless population, just some issues. So if you look at from June 18th to September 8th, we've had about 327 calls on Harrison and about 95 at the Midtown shelter. So as far as the comparative data goes, it would lead me to believe that there's a lot lesser crime that's happening with the tunnel specifically, or at least ones that are standing out regarding other areas that may be comparative, if you will. So what is the police department doing as of right now? So one thing I'm very excited to talk about is our problem-oriented policing. And it's yes, it is a theory, but it is also a software that we have now. And it is included in our new software, One Solution program. And this is actually the very first, this problem or this issue with the tunnels is the very first time that this software is going to be used and utilized. So with that being said, this went into effect on September 1st as far as getting it entered into the digital system, the POP system for short, or for the acronym, and up until September 8th. So this is what's happened so far. We've had 32 close patrols of the tunnel. Just to kind of give you a little bit of what's a close patrol. A close patrol is where an officer exited their unit, walked through the tunnel on foot, and actually got a good feel for what's happening in that tunnel, or made some kind of contacts with individuals in the tunnel. Those happened all hours of the day. That was during the morning, during the afternoon, at nighttime. And one of the things that I really enjoy, I am also a data guy. One of the things I really enjoy about this system is that you can see there it says 32 close patrols, 1,115 minutes spent, and that's how it reports it to us. So I can see and say, okay, well, within the last week, we've spent 19 hours patrolling the city's tunnels, various tunnels. We didn't want to just focus on one tunnel. We split it up amongst all of the tunnels through the city. So, and in that time, we made 5 arrests. Those were generally for coming into contact with people and finding out that they have arrest warrants or some other nefarious criminal activity was happening. there were several warnings that were issued for camping. And then in this new POP system, the commanders for the shifts are able to enter in exactly what the observations are by the officers, which is very nice for us, because then we can make determinations on what needs to happen next. So the observations, you see there was needles, syringes. There were some large camps that were found in some of the tunnels. There was trash. Some of the observations made by the officers is they're very dark with very inadequate lighting as far as walking through them or feeling safe, if you will. And light is always a deterrent, especially in tunnels and areas like that. So that's a little bit of what we've been doing so far and where we're at with it. And with that, I will stand for any questions that you all may have.
Thank you so much, Captain Champlin. I really appreciate the presentation and all the information presented to the committee members. Does any member have any questions? Cal, I see your hand up.
Hi, thank you, Captain. That was a great presentation. Getting ahead of ourselves maybe on the agenda, but it seems more appropriate to ask you these questions now. First, we concentrated partly because of the articles in the paper and the opinion article in the Journal North on the tunnel itself, but recognizing that you're just starting to collect data on this area, do you think it's fair to ascribe a lot of these problems, if they exist, to the tunnel or to the entire kind of rail yard, Sequoia Trail system? Because we've had assaults near the rail yard. We've had an assault, I think, in the past along the Sequoia Trail. So you have homeless shelters near the tunnel. You have basically a very attractive place for people to walk. So is this a bigger problem, if it is a problem, than just the tunnel itself? And I'll stop there and let you answer that.
Sure. I don't have anything that points to, the trails, so to speak, being out of control, or I did meet with Senator Bryce about the Rail Yard Park and a couple other representatives from Rail Yard Park, just basically speaking on what's happening at the Rail Yard Park. And in my opinion, kind of with having the COVID that came out if anybody's aware or follows the news or follows the city, right when COVID hit, we were doing Downtown Focus Phase 2. And Downtown Focus Phase 2 was having our bike team and other officers spending a lot of time, almost their entire day at the Rail Yard Park or on the plaza, and dealing with the homeless population, dealing with petty crime and big crime at the Rail Yard Park and in and around the trails. So then COVID happened, everything kind of quieted down. People were staying home, but when people were staying home, then we had another part of the population, if you will, that came out. So I haven't heard, as far as an increase in crime at the trails or happening right outside a trail or the rail yard. I have heard of an increase of like petty criminal activity at the rail yard. There have been some instances of a little bit bigger cases that we've dealt with, but we are addressing those as well with our bike team and our on-duty resources.
Okay. The other, there are a couple of small tunnels on the Chamisa Trail, as well as the underpass down on Rodeo, if it's called Rodeo, there by Sam's Club. Have there been any problems there in those tunnels and underpasses, which could also be shelters?
I know that in the past, I think we've had camps that we've broken up there, again, prior to COVID. But I haven't had any recent, and we have patrolled those tunnels specifically. Those have been in part of this. That was one of the reasons. I had two options when I put in the police-oriented policing request, and that was, do we focus on one tunnel, that being the rail yard, or do we focus on all city tunnels that could potentially be a problem? And we widened it open to all the tunnels. So there has been specific patrols in those tunnels specifically and I don't know, I'd have to actually pull up the specific data points on that tunnel from the POP, if you will, the problem-oriented policing enforcement, to see if anything took place within that tunnel while the officers were there. But nothing major comes to mind right now as far as cases or anything like that.
Okay. Is there any thought of putting, say, closed circuit TV at the rail yard tunnel, the St. Francis tunnel?
I do know that we have our mobile video trailers. I believe we do have one out at the rail yard right now. And we usually have one out at the plaza. I'm not certain where all of them are at currently, But those are definitely requests that can be put in for different areas of the city. And if it's a valid request, obviously we have a lot of the city that wants to have those mobile video trailers, and we kind of put them in order of priority.
Okay, thank you, Captain Chaplin. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Trying to get myself off mute. Sorry about that. Thank you, Cal. We had Rob up for questions. His hand was up.
Hi, yes, thank you, Captain and members of the committee and Counselor. I only one question. Is there a regular foot or bike patrol down the paths that the tunnels provide access for?
There are, I wouldn't consider it like a daily patrol, but there are patrols. I actually just spoke with our bike sergeant, Celestino Lopez. I just spoke with him today, and they were out this past weekend, and they intend to be out on this, I believe, this Saturday. And they spend an exorbitant amount of time riding pretty much all of the trails. So they do spend time on the trails, yes.
Okay, but so it sounds like intermittently on weekends.
Yeah, that's really as again, we had the COVID pandemic, if you will, hit, and we have to split our resources, if you will, with our bike team between the trails, the rail yard, the plaza, and we also have the concern with people not wearing their face coverings on the plaza and issues with that coming up. So we have to really split them amongst their priorities, and you know, so yeah, I think intermittent is a fair statement.
All right. And yeah, absolutely. And on that point, Rob, last night the council approved a contract for security services for the rail yard proper area, the rail yard business district, and it was confirmed that those security services will also be providing services to the underpath, the undertunnel, and the path. So there should be that presence as well, besides police presence. Next up on the questions, member Judith Gabriel.
Thank you for the presentation, Captain. Can you define tunnel? I'm confused about some of those areas that were labeled as tunnels. Are they all part of the path, or are some of these just like adjacent to an arroyo overpass? I'm new, so I am not sure exactly what you mean when you say tunnel.
Sure. So I mean, for I guess ease, we just listed them as tunnels. But there are some that are just simply a path that would go underneath, like an actual path, walking path that would go underneath something or a trail. And then some that would just be, let's say, sand that leads underneath a roadway.
Okay, did that help clarify, Judith? Okay, any other questions on your behalf, Judith?
No, thank you.
Okay, I think Sky, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to push the button to raise a hand here. So I guess the reason we had you come and talk to us, Mr. Champlain, is because of this article in the paper that sort of associated tunnels with assaults or with sort of a fear of crime, right? And kind of what I hear in how you're talking about this is that there almost seems to be like this presumed equivalence or synonymity with homelessness and crime. And I think that's kind of a dangerous thing to do, because then we start maybe thinking about how do we keep people safe as keeping them farther away from homeless people. And, you know, especially now with our unemployment spiking, and, you know, I think homelessness is just a fact of life in the current climate. And I think, of course, people are afraid of poor people. People are also afraid of tunnels because I think it makes people feel vulnerable. But it sounds to me like what you're saying is that there's no apparent causative relationship between tunnels and crime. Maybe there's a correlation, but it actually doesn't even look like there's a correlation based on the data that you do have. Is that correct?
I think I'll address a couple parts of your statement there. So one of them, making the homeless population synonymous with crime, I agree. That's a slippery slope with a statement. The ones I'm specifically talking about were identified as the assault on July 29th. That was identified as a homeless individual. A lot of the camps that we deal with that do have to, or that do bring in the syringes and the needles and trash and other things, it is a direct relationship with that homeless population, if you will. With that being said, as far as a correlation between tunnels and crime, I think that there's a perception because if I could put it up on a screen and show you a dark tunnel and ask if you felt comfortable walking through it, I think that you would probably say no, especially at night. And I think people naturally think and cautiously think when they see a tunnel anyway, and they presume crime's happening in it. Do we have a direct correlation between tunnels and crime? No. Is it where we're at with, I know the news article came out and there was an individual who was assaulted in a tunnel, that made the news. That began outside of the tunnel. And then that suspect actually followed her into the tunnel where that happened. I believe it's more of a crime of opportunity, if you will. And he wasn't staged out in the tunnel waiting to pounce, if you will. But with that being said, this isn't the first time, and nor will it be the last, that we have a discussion about crime and tunnels. And just things that are happening there to keep people safe and and even if it's not a big spike in, I don't believe that there's any big spike in crime in tunnels. We do have a duty, I've said this before in other committees and with the council, is no matter what data I can present to you to show you that crime is not spiking in the tunnels, I cannot overcome the way emotions with data. So if people don't feel safe and if people don't feel like they're comfortable walking through those tunnels, then there's something that we're going to have to do to deal with that.
So it sounds like we have maybe more of a design issue with making tunnels appear and feel safe than we have a policing issue. It sounds like it's not a policing issue at all, really.
I think it's a good combination of both. I mean, the way that our city is going with kind of combining the efforts from police and community services and other parts of the city kind of together to attack different problems throughout the city. I think it's gonna work good. And to your point, sure, I think it's gonna be helpful if we get adequate lighting down there. If we had a muralist go down there and paint some stuff, Santa Fe is a city of art, you know what I mean? And it was more inviting, that would definitely make people feel more comfortable. But you also have a police presence that's either intermittent or walking through the tunnels at different times, especially at night when people are alone or don't feel safe. That also helps people feel more comfortable with that. So I think it's kind of a combined effort, if you will.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sky. Bruce, your hand was up.
Yes, thank you, Counselor. I just have a quick question. If you remember, it involves the security at the rail yard. Do you remember what level that was contracted for?
I do not. I'd have to go back and look at the contract.
Okay.
But I can get that answer and share it with the committee members.
Okay. That's all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me take a look and see. So Rob, your hand is still up. Did you have any more questions?
I don't, sorry.
Okay, no worries. Just want to make sure.
Virtually lowered my hand.
And Judith, your hand was still up. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to let people know how to raise their hand on Zoom. If you go down to participants and click on that, there's a little icon that says raise your hand. And then you can unraise your hand. So wanted to share that with you all. Then you don't have to make gesticulations.
Thank you, Judith. I appreciate that. It looks like we do have a person that is calling in that is not a committee member. I'll go ahead and allow the question as long as it's not an extensive questioning, as usually questions are only asked by committee members. So it looks like Hannah Burnham, she has her hand up. And Hannah, let me see. Joe, we might
Yes,
need to
sir.
promote Hannah to a panelist just to ask her question.
Yeah, let me reclaim host here. And let me see, allow to talk. Hannah, you
Yes.
are,
Hello.
there you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Burnham. I'm with the Santa Fe MPO. And I'm sorry I am unable to communicate in the same way that my coworkers were. And thank you for having me, committee members. And thank you for your presentation, Captain. I was wondering, you had mentioned lights in the tunnels. And I know that our trails are really not lighted very well. And I also know that a lot of our crashes are related to low light conditions. Do you think, in your opinion, do you think that that if we lighted the trails as well as the tunnels more, that might help decrease crime on the trails for bicyclists? And then with that, you know, we are really trying to make people safer by promoting these tunnels and stuff. So trying to get them off of, so St. Mike's, for example, we're trying to get off of crossing St. Mike's, jaywalking across St. Mike's by using a tunnel. Would you say that you actually would agree with the idea that we need a pedestrian friendly crossing? And is this what you would do if you were in our positions as planners? Thank you.
Okay, sure. To the first part of that question regarding the lighting of, you know, all of the trails and the tunnels and whatnot, I think, you know, anytime that there's adequate lighting, we know that it does deter at least those individuals that would take that opportunity of darkness to commit crime. To what extent, I don't know. To what extent, and you do have to weigh the extent of lighting all of the trails within the city of Santa Fe and all the tunnels versus the actual outcome and true benefit that we're going to get. Is it truly going to reduce the crime? I don't have a direct correlation that I can think of, or a study that I've read that would say yes or no. I think it would warrant some definite research by those entities that control that type of request, if you will. But is lighting going to make at least people feel safer? It generally does. As human beings, we don't like to walk around in the dark and not be able to see what's moving. So I definitely think it would make it feel safer. To the point of crossing over, I think we said was St. Francis, I'm sorry, St. Michael's, and having some kind of a pedestrian cross there or something to that effect. Anytime that bicyclists can stay off of, have other routes to get around the city.
Adam, you cut out. What did you say? Yeah, now I can hear you.
Joe, your mic is not muted. Sorry about that, Captain.
Yep, no problem. I just wanted to let Joe know, as I was sure someone's going to let him know. So with that being said, anytime that bicyclists can have another way to get around the city, especially St. Mike's, Cerritos Road, all those major.
About the opportunity, not about the other stuff.
Try again.
Joe, can you hear us?
Hold on, Adam. What was? I apologize.
No worries. You're good.
Gotta love the intricacies of Zoom. So with that being said, I think, yeah, anytime that we can make it safer or provided alternate routes for the bicyclists and remove them away from moving 2-ton, 5-ton vehicles is always going to be safer. And I hope that answers the two questions that you asked, if she's still here.
Okay. Looks like a couple hands went back up, Captain Champlin.
Sure.
First one, Judith. We've got on my list, and then we'll go to Rob right after.
Sorry, I gave you a tutorial on how to raise your hand and lower, and I forgot to lower my hand. I don't have a question.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Judith. Well, then we'll move to Rob.
I still do. Just a quick follow-up from the last question. Do you feel like having better lighted trails would improve your response, though, or the response of other, emergency services that might need to access the trail?
No, I don't think they would have a direct, or at least enough of an impact to use it as a reason for the lighting. And the reason I say that is lighting of the trails is great. It's great for the people on the trails. It's great to deter those people that would have bad intentions, if you will. But law enforcement, fire, EMS, they are all well equipped, with modern technology to day or night to go over there and respond. So I don't think it's necessarily going to affect or make our response more efficient. And even in the aspect of a crime, let's say that occurred on a trail, let's say somebody was seriously injured as a result of attack or something, we have mechanisms in place to go and deploy huge lights for crime scenes and stuff like that that would light that area up and make it available for processing, if you will.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up at the moment. Just want to do one last quick call for questions.
Mr. Chair, if I can, there are some,
yes.
I see some of the questions in the chat. So as soon as I'm done with the questions here, I'll answer the questions in the chat.
Sure, absolutely. Go right ahead.
Do you mind if I read this one, Mr. Chair? One of them?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so there was a question from Elena Kayak. It says, does our safety department have a vigorous bike patrol team at this time? In other words, do we have regularly assigned officers to bike patrols? So to that question, yes, we do. We have 4 full-time bike officers. We have 70 coverage with those bike officers, and we have 1 sergeant. So 4 officers, 1 sergeant, and then we have 2 public safety aides that are also assigned to that detail or that specialty team, if you will.
Thank you, Captain. And I know, Councilor Garcia, that there's really not time for commentary, but I just want to take this moment to invite those police officers who are assigned to those bike teams to accompany children once we do open up school campuses and we start our walk and rolls to school like we did last term that we were open. We had many of your officers join us, and the children love to see them. So that's a standing invitation every time we have walk and rolls to school.
Okay, yeah, if you can let me know whenever those dates occur and the times and give me those time frames, I can definitely have some of the officers. The officers enjoy it too. So.
And I have to apologize to the new members of BTAC. I didn't introduce myself properly. I work for Santa Fe Public Schools in the Facilities Department and am the liaison between the Safe Routes to School program and Santa Fe Public Schools.
Great,
Thanks.
Thank you, Elena. I think that was all the questions in the chat, Captain, unless I missed one.
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, once again, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come and present to us. I really appreciate it. I think as BTAC moves forward, please, we might extend the invitation to you again. So hopefully you'll accept and come back. With that, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and move on to the next agenda item.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. Be safe. So we now have item 7A, which is opening remarks from the chair. So just wanted to take a quick moment to welcome everybody back. I know we've been, haven't met probably in about 7 months. And I know we have some members that are eagerly waiting to get some work done. And I'm in that same boat. It's was a bit frustrating that our meetings were put on hold, but we're back and the plan is to continue to work. I do want to thank the members that exited that were in the previous term. We had Rachel Wexler from District 1 and Tom Sharp in District 2. So I just want to thank you for your service to BTAC, and hopefully you stay engaged. I think I see Rachel on with us. And I don't know if Tom is on with us either, but I just want to publicly thank you all for your dedicated efforts towards BTAC, and hopefully you might make a decision to apply again in the future. As you know, we do have new members on the committee. We've got 2 returning members and 2 new members, which is fantastic. It's great to see the new faces. We, as returning members, we've got Cal Spencer and Sky Tallman. And then for the new members, we've got Judith Gabriel and Yvette Serrano. So I just want to publicly welcome you all to the committee. And at this point, if we each of the committee members want to go through and introduce themselves, that way everybody becomes acquainted and we get to know each other and start to roll up our sleeves and get to work on BTAC priorities together. So with that, in no particular order, if anybody wants to go first.
Well, I'll go first. I'm Yolanda Eisenstein, and I joined the committee right before the pandemic. So I haven't had a chance to make a contribution. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm a lawyer. I don't really practice right now. I'm an adjunct at the University of New Mexico School of Law. I teach wildlife law. And I'm also a big biker and hiker and runner. And that is why I'm interested in the committee and why I thought it was a really good fit for me. So I'm looking forward to just basically continuing the good work that everybody's doing. I want to contribute in the way that, you know, whatever my expertise is, I'm happy to do the work. I don't really practice, so I do have time. Which I know a lot of people, if they have full-time jobs, it's not as easy for them to just stop and you know, do work. I also have access to legal databases and so forth that may be helpful in the committee going forward. So I'm looking forward to getting to work.
Thank you, Yolanda. Now, if I recall correctly, you were at our last BTAC meeting in person, because that was right around when you were getting confirmed.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So my timing was not the best, but I'm glad that we're meeting again, and I'm looking forward to getting to work.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Who wants to go next? Let's see.
I'll go next.
Okay, the floor is yours, Bruce.
So I was on the committee. Am I still on the committee, Counselor?
Romella, can you confirm that for me?
I've been getting all the emails. What was that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Bruce Finger is a member of BTAC.
Okay, yeah, I thought you were. I just wanted to triple confirm. Romella is the genius behind BTAC, so I just wanted to have her confirmation. But
well, for the
that is if you, as long as you want to be with us, Bruce, we'll have you with us.
You changed the day to Thursday, and that's great because I teach on Wednesday nights, so I'll be able to stay for all the meetings now, the entire time. Just for the new people, I'm a retired railroad special agent, worked in the inner city Chicago. I'm used to working in the dark, so I understood everything the captain was telling us about the issues of darkness. So they're doing a great job. They're putting up those cameras all over the city, and it's a real nice technology that they can bring into a neighborhood to help deter crime. So I don't bicycle that much. I mostly hike. So that's about it for me. So thank you very much for letting me stay on the committee.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bruce. Who wants to go next? Sky? You might need to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I'm Sky Tallman, and I'm a urban and regional planner with the Department of Transportation. So bicycle and pedestrian policy is sort of my day job. And I'm also an avid bicyclist. And, you know, I really hope I can make a valuable contribution to bicycling and walking in Santa Fe. I'm much more interested in sort of the aspect of bicycle and pedestrian experience that's about commuting and about improving our network, our functional network, more than our maybe recreational network. I think we have a pretty good recreational trail, but I'm really more passionate about sort of the functional aspect of biking and pedestrian issues here in Santa Fe. Anyway, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sky. I really appreciate it and looking forward to having your expertise with us. Next up, we got Cal, Yvette, Rob, Judith. Yvette, your hand, I saw you wave your hand, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Yvette Serrano. I work for Chainbreaker Collective, which is a membership-based economic and environmental justice organization. We have over 700 dues-paying members, most of which use a bicycle as their main form of transportation. So I'm excited to contribute to BTAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette. I appreciate it, and welcome on board. Cal, I see your mic unmuted.
I am Cal Spencer. I'm a scientist up at Los Alamos National Lab and a League of American Bicyclist cycling instructor. I know a little bit about the dark. I put myself through college as a night watchman. Since then, I've been involved with bicycling and pedestrian advocacy since the 90s, first in Honolulu as the president of the Hawaii Bicycling League. We moved us to Los Alamos in 2001, and I was active for most of that time now in the County Transportation Board, where we wrote a bike plan and a complete streets policy document. We moved to Santa Fe in 2018 when my wife retired from the lab, and I applied for the job on the BTAC. And like Sky, my primary interest in the BTAC is in providing for safe multimodal transportation in the city. I think it's easier for a recreational cyclist to find places to ride, but it's tougher if you're dependent on a bicycle or on walking to get around, unless we make it a little bit more conducive to that in our transportation system. Thank you.
Thank you, Sky. Not Sky, sorry, Cal. End of the day,
I just aspire to be Sky.
We all do. We've got Judith and Rob.
I can go. My name is Rob Morlino. I'm an avid road and mountain biker. I live in District 4. I'm also not afraid of the dark, but not for any professional reason. And work in nonprofits, work for HomeWise right now here in Santa Fe.
Great, thank you, Rob. And Judith.
Hi, everybody. Judith Gabriel. I am about to retire from state government on September 30th. I am finishing up a 33-year career in public health with focus on health promotion and chronic disease prevention and management. And I'm excited to be able to have the time to contribute to the community. And I use the trails for recreation, commuting not for long, and transportation. And I am very interested in access, equity, and the public health perspective.
Great, thank you, Judith. And I think that's all the members we have with us. Hope I'm not missing anybody. I'm trying to scroll through. If I missed you, please chime in. Okay, don't see anybody. So now let's go ahead and, so thank you guys. Once again, welcome. Looking forward to working with everybody. And I think, you know, as evident with tonight's agenda, there's some work in front of us, and which will lead to more work and more work and more work, which is, I think the purpose of this committee is to ensure that we are advocating for bicyclists and pedestrians throughout Santa Fe. So please, we want to utilize your expertise and ensure that we're creating effective policy for the city of Santa Fe. Let's go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, which is going to be now item 8A, which is nomination and appointment of vice chair. Romela, would you mind giving us a brief overview of this?
The ordinance that came out from the city regarding committee all advisory committees or all city committees need to have a vice chair, so that if the chair is not available to facilitate the meeting, the vice chair can step in.
Right. So in the instance that I'm sick, I'm away, we want to ensure the work continues to get done. So with that, I want to go ahead and open up the floor for nominations. If anybody would like to make a nomination or self-nominate themselves for the vice chair position. And then what I feel we can do is then move forward based off of how many nominations we have, might take a vote and then move forward accordingly. So with that, do we have any nominations for a vice chair position? Or self-nominations? You can always nominate yourself.
I'll do it if no one else will.
So is that a nominate yourself, Cal?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, do we have any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate, I don't know if I have to make a motion, nominate Sky, although I also wanted to nominate Cal because I think they both are, especially Sky working in transportation, I believe, and Cal having been a member of League of American Bicyclists, both have exceptional experience. So I guess just to maybe to have some debate, maybe nominate Sky at least.
Okay. And so with that, Sky, would you be willing to accept that nomination?
Sure.
Okay. And so I think officially I've got to do 3 calls. So any other calls for nominations? Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and close the nomination process, which leaves us with 2 candidates for the vice chair position, Sky Tellman and Cal Spencer. Romella, how do you suggest we move forward with voting on the chair position?
Perhaps, Mr. Chair, voice vote? I don't
Okay.
know.
No, we can do that. So
like a roll call?
Right.
Another way we can do it is send a private message to you, Counselor, or Romella with our vote.
Well, we would want to, if we did the private message, Bruce, it would, no, we want to ensure transparency. So what we would do is we can go through a roll call and each individual member would cast their vote, and whether it be Sky or Cal, and we'll work our way through the roster and those means. And yeah, we'll move forward accordingly. And so with that, Romella, if you wouldn't mind conducting the roll call vote for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Member Eisenstein?
Well, I don't know either one of you, but since Cal volunteered first, I'll vote for him.
Member Finger?
I know them both from being on the committee, and I'll vote for Cal. Just he's closer to my age, I guess.
Member Gabrielle?
Aye.
Member Gabrielle, please unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was unmuted. Sky.
Member Morlino?
Sorry to make this all complicated, guys. I'll just vote for Cal for the same reason if he nominated himself.
Member Serrano?
I vote for Cal.
Member Spencer?
I'll vote for Sky. One can't vote for oneself. That's narcissism.
Member Tallman? Member Tolman, please unmute yourself.
There it is. Well, I can't be a narcissist, so I'll vote for Cal.
Mr. Chair, do you need to vote?
No, I'm actually going to abstain from the vote as the chair. So,
Member Kali Spencer has 5 votes, and Member Sky Tolman has 2 votes.
okay.
So,
All right, Cal, well, congratulations, and thank you, Sky, for stepping up to be nominated. I really appreciate it. And if you're with us in 2 years, definitely that vice chair position will still be open. So thank you both. And Cal, we'll get you acquainted in regards to vice chair duties.
Thank you. Now I guess I find out what I have to do.
Let's go ahead and move on to agenda item 8B, which is amendments to resolution number 2017-46 regarding the Bicycle and Trails Advisory Committee to update its name and clarify the committee purpose, duties, and responsibility in order to enhance the committee's ability to support the city of Santa Fe in its efforts to make bicycling and walking safe, viable, and comfortable modes of transportation. Romella, if you wouldn't mind providing a little context for this, because I think this was kind of even somewhat in the works before I came on board as BTAC chair.
yeah. Yes, Mr. Chair. So at the February 19, 2020 BTAC meeting, a motion to recommend amending resolution number 2017-46 to the governing body. The specific changes needs to be about the purpose, duties, and responsibilities was approved. Specific issues that led to requesting an amendment to the resolution were lack of clarity with committee's stated purpose, whether or not on-road bicycle infrastructure is within their mandate, which led to inconsistencies in the committee's duties and responsibilities. The staff liaison was directed to work with the city attorney's staff liaison, Mr. Jesse Guillen, in drafting the amendments. In this process, inputs from BTAC members, Public Works Department Director, Engineering Division Director, Land Use Department Director, and the Metropolitan Planning Organization Officer were solicited. The result is a more encompassing purpose that clearly mandates the committee to work on improving on and off-road bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. The goal is to make bicycling and walking safe, viable, and comfortable modes of transportation. Due to clearly defined purpose, it became apparent that the name of the committee needed to be changed from Bicycle and Trails Advisory Committee to Bicycling and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. The recommendation of the staff is in regards to practicality in implementing these policies, the staff liaison recommends to adopt or recommend the amendments to resolution number 2017-46, but with the following changes. Remove section 4.b, review all phases of a project's design and construction. And mine, Mr. Chair, this is just a recommendation. The staff liaison's concern is the committee has no member who is a professional engineer and qualified to review roadway and trails design plans and construction management. The city hires professional engineers to do the engineering design plans for all roadway and trail projects, which an NMDOT reviews before beginning construction. Likewise, the city hires a professional construction manager for major projects. BTAC's purpose is policy and advocacy in nature rather than a technical one. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you so much, Romella. And just to give additional context, I felt it was necessary to bring this resolution before BTAC before it got introduced to the governing body, because I wanted to ensure that BTAC provided their input into this. I think it's necessary, and so that's why it's in front of the body tonight, our committee tonight. And so with that, I'll go ahead and open up the floor for any discussion items. And I think I saw Sky raise his hand, and then we'll go to Yolanda.
I'll raise my hand digitally too. Let's see. Okay, I'm unmuted. Yeah, I just regarding the recommendation that Romella included there, I think it's important, maybe we could reword it from review to ensure that that planned projects consider bicycle and pedestrian needs. I know the MPO has a complete streets policy, but I don't believe the city has adopted that. And, you know, we wouldn't want to be making engineering decisions, but whether or not the engineers are even considering the bicycle master plan or bicycle and pedestrian issues is more or less the purpose of BTAC or BPAC, as it may be called. So I think maybe keeping something in there to that effect is important, although maybe it shouldn't be construed to be taking over the job of engineers.
Okay, thank you, Sky. Any other comments on the proposed resolution? Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to Yolanda. Her hand was up next.
Yeah, I agree with Sky. That was one of my comments, is maybe we just reword that section. Maybe it's just input or advice on the design, maybe, and not the construction. So however we want to reword that, I think it should be in there. But yeah, maybe we just do something a little different. And then I had a couple of questions, more than comments. Under 4A, it says infrastructure projects to be completed using capital improvement projects, state and federal funds. And then if you go to 4G on the next page, it says seek funding from city, state, and federal sources. So my question is there an inconsistency there? Because we don't say anything about city funding in 4A, but we do on G. So I don't know if that's, you know, it says capital improvement projects, but it doesn't say anything about city funds. So I don't know if that's intentional. It's just my nitpicking.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Romella.
4A, the capital improvement projects, those are the city funded projects.
Okay, that was my question. I thought that might be the case. And then I had one more question on the meetings. It says that we shall meet every other month. And my question is there or can there be any provisions for special meetings? I know in a lot of bylaws and organizations, they have some sort of process where, I mean, if something comes up that's we consider kind of an emergency and that we need to have a meeting, is it possible to put something in, whether it's Chair Garcia or the mayor or a majority of the committee members say, hey, we need to meet about this? So that was my other question.
Romella?
Mr. Chair, because this is a public meeting, this is some advisory committee meeting that is open to the public. So we need to follow OMA or the Open Meetings Act. And the only time you can call for a special meeting is during emergency. So I do not know, Mr. Chair, if we can do that.
Right, right. And I was gonna make that same comment, Romella. Thank you. And to give some context around the change, I think that was a recommendation from staff. And I think this might have been a sticking point for some of the committee members, and I am completely open to keeping it every month with the intention that if there's not enough work to maybe meet every month, I want to make sure that we're being efficient and using everybody's time wisely. That if we have nothing pressing in front of us that we can go ahead and cancel meetings, I'd rather us have the opportunity to cancel a meeting than have to wait every other month. So with that, that was just a little bit of context around that. Yolanda, the floor is back yours. I'm sorry, just wanted to give some context.
Well, having not been on the committee, I don't really know if monthly is warranted, but it just seems that there's a lot of work to do, and there's certainly an emphasis on biking and walking, not only with the commuting side, but with the recreational side. And my preference would be, as you said, to schedule a meeting every month. And if we don't need to meet or there's a reason to put it off, but I'll defer to the other committee members, particularly those who've been on the committee for a while. So.
Okay, thank you, Yolanda. I think Cal had his hand up next, and then we'll go to Judith.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple things. One, I concur with you that we should meet every month and reserve the opportunity to cancel a meeting if there's nothing to do. But it seems to me that there's a lot to do, and it's piled up for months. And this is the only committee that directly addresses bike pedestrian stuff. I think, given our larger mandate, we should reserve the right to meet every month. Second point on 4B, I agree with Sky and others who suggest that taking that out is inappropriate for a couple of reasons. One is, as I said, we're the only dedicated bike pedestrian committee that I'm aware of in the city. And so we're the only time that we hold public hearings on bike ped infrastructure and policy. Secondly, I don't think there's any implication that we should be acting as PEs or PTOEs or professionals. I mean, we have one, Sky Tallman, who is a transportation professional. The rest of us are acting as citizen advisors. I spent close to 14 years in Los Alamos County, about half of that time either chairing or vice chairing the County Transportation Advisory Board. And we looked at all of the sorts of plans we're talking about here and work closely with the county's professionals who do have transportation related and engineering related degrees. So I think some massaging of the working that we are looking at whether these projects and proposals are meeting our policy guidelines is appropriate, and to work with the professionals insofar as if we have any technical questions. But I think just removing that entirely is inappropriate. So, and if we want to massage the wording here with a motion or leave it in with the understanding that these are not meant to be PE reviews, but citizen advisory reviews, that I think that's important.
Okay. Any other comments, Cal?
I think Sky's got his hand up. I was going to suggest some wording, but I don't know if it's appropriate to do that at this time, but maybe recognize my colleague, Mr. Tallman first.
Sure. Well, I'll is it on that point, Sky?
Yes.
Yeah, and may I speak?
Yes. Floor is yours, Sky.
So I think it may not require language in this draft, but I think I would like some clarification for myself and especially also for our new members on if we have this role of reviewing all phases of a project's design and construction, particularly the early phases. So the project design, or when there's like a phase A/B study done, how is it that the committee is informed at early phases when decisions are still being made? how is it that that comes to our attention or that we can bring that up? For example, right now, Osage is being reconstructed, and that is in the bicycle master plan recognized as a bicycle route. It does have bicycle lanes. And so that would be one, corridor of concern that would be relevant to BTAC, where we could, potentially offer insight or advice on the reconstruction of Osage. And yet I'm not sure how that could have come to us, even if we had been meeting, because we usually aren't informed, or we haven't in the past been informed of projects that are coming up with the cities. So maybe we could clarify just the process of, if that's our role, how does it happen?
Romella, might you be able to help clarify that for us?
Mr. Chair, I've been the staff liaison since January. We came in the same time. So I've been the staff liaison since January. And that's why I brought this up, because the process for, this advisory committee is the Advisory Committee of Public Works, Engineering Division, Roadway and Trails. So the process that we do in Roadway and Trails is that if there are, like for example, a contract that is more than $60,000, it goes before BTAC, and then Public Works, Finance Governing Body for approval. If there is a grant that we receive, then it goes, that's the process of approval. I don't believe that we take, if there's a project that is going into engineering design, I don't believe there is a project administrator who brings this project and asks the advice of BTAC. And that is, I'm a projects administrator in Roadway and Trails, and I'm administering 4 projects. I have not, one project went to NMDOT for 90% review, but it did not go before BTAC. And that's why I brought this up this issue, because I do not know how to implement this. Is this a technical review, or is this a review like what Member Morlino attended on Tuesday night, which is the Camino Entrada Improvements Project public review? The presentation of the engineers is very different from what I saw and experienced by NMDOT reviewing the plans. And the plans are, I believe, 40 sheets. And the presentation at that meeting, where the public reviewed the project, there were very few slides, and it's very layman terms. So this objective, or this responsibility, was in the original resolution. So if the committee members don't want to remove it, I would like to make it clear, how could we implement this policy? Because a policy written on paper but not implemented is very frustrating from the viewpoint of members.
Okay, thank you, Romella. I really appreciate that. I'll go back to Cal. The floor was originally yours. You had deferred to Sky, and then we got clarification from Romella.
Maybe, is this a job for a subcommittee to figure out how to implement this into our job description so that it's less frustrating, and so we have a clear path forward on how to do for 4B? because it seems that this has come up over and over again in 2 years I've been on here, that at times the BTAC seems like it was left out of discussions when projects got started, and we sort of were handed things sort of halfway down the road. And it's led to a little bit of frustration in some of the past members.
Okay, thank you, Cal. Did you have any other questions or comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Next was Judith that I had on my list. And then after Judith, we can go back to Sky. Your hand was raised, Sky.
Yeah, thank you. I first wanted to just say that I like the change in the name to include pedestrian as well as bicycle. Bike trails sometimes has a connotation that we only deal with really avid bicyclists or not some standard transportation issues. So I appreciate that change. And I'm wondering, and this may be answered later when we talk about subcommittees, it looks like there's 2 work groups basically, and wondering how that works. So if we were to meet every month, would it be possible to every other month be working with the subcommittee and every other month be working with the full committee? Or is the subcommittee structure and are those meetings set up in addition to the monthly meetings? I was a little confused when I saw bi-monthly in there because I thought our next meeting was in October. So maybe we'll talk about that later. I don't know. I'm just putting that out.
Okay, and maybe I can help clarify some for you, Judith. So our next meeting is scheduled to be in October because what's in front of us is a proposed resolution that is proposing to potentially change the date. So currently, the way it stands, we're meeting monthly. And so we would meet monthly until this potential change happened, or we didn't include that change in this proposed resolution. In regards to subcommittees, those would be meetings outside of the BTAC meeting schedule. It would only include so many BTAC or BTAC members because we can't have a quorum. So that's why there's a certain threshold we can have on that subcommittee, and then so many community members. And I think it's up to that committee to determine their working schedule. And then they would report back to BTAC. So hopefully that helps provide some clarification for you. And Romella, maybe if I missed something.
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So are the subcommittee meetings public meetings as well?
No, they're not.
No. Okay.
Because they're not, we don't have a quorum of members.
Okay. All right. That's what you meant by that. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments, Judith? Okay. I think Sky pulled his hand down, or Sky, you were next. I just want to come back to you and double check.
Sure. So it seems like there's going to be some procedural difficulties with implementing our policy as it's stated, just with how the city does their design review. So maybe we need to get a counter proposal or some sort of clarification from, maybe not coming from you, Romella, maybe coming from John Romero, or coming from somebody in the city who can explain how how we can be a part of the process. Because otherwise, if we're not part of the early design, then we're relegated to being a complaint department where we come retroactively after a project is completed and it would be really expensive to fix. And we say, wah, wasn't done well. Or wah, bicycles or pedestrians weren't considered. And that's not really an effective role for BTAC or BPAC. And yet I think it's really critical that when an intersection is being rebuilt or when Osage is being reconstructed, that we have a moment to say, hey, this is something that would be really helpful for bicycling and pedestrians in order to improve our network and in order to improve the user experience across the city. And yeah, because it's difficult, it just simply hasn't been happening. And I think that's led to a lot of kind of confusion on our part as to why we're here.
Okay, thank you for the comments and feedback. Sky, I see Romella with her hand up. Yeah, the floor is yours, Romella.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I cannot raise my hand in the participant box. I don't know why, maybe because I'm a co-host.
Romella, yes, because you're a co-host. You don't have to raise your hand.
Thank you, Joe. This review, we can, if you don't wish to remove it, then we don't change it. Then we need to make sure that Public Works needs to bring all the projects in every stage of the project to bring it up to the committee for review. That's procedural, but because it's in your duties and responsibilities, we have a responsibility to implement that duties and responsibility. But there's if you remember in on maybe 10 days ago or 12 days ago, I emailed every member of the committee for the ENN, or the Early Neighborhood Notification Meeting for Camino Entrada project, because I found out that the ENN meeting is required by Land Use Department for any development projects, including subdivisions, to invite BTAC members to that meeting. So the ENN is also required for all capital infrastructure projects. So Public Works has to invite also BTAC to that meeting. That's why I sent you the email to the ENN meeting for Camino Entrada and the ENN meeting for Sandoval Montezuma project, which will happen next week. That's one way to implement this. But I just want to make sure that what is the level of review, be more specific in your duties and responsibilities. Because when I read it, it's like technical review. Is this like the review that happened on Tuesday night? It's a public review. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Romella. Sky, your hand is up.
So Romella, if we were to attend these meetings, how would that work? Would we attend them as BTAC, or would we just simply be members of the public offering public comment? I mean, what would that mean? What would that mean?
Maybe a motion can be made to clarify 4.B, to review all phases of the project's design and construction, or maybe no construction, because as what member Eisenstein mentioned, it's the BTAC. BTAC is more needed in the beginning of the project, not construction. Make it clear that you wish to review the project in 30% review, 30% design plan, because that's the beginning of the project, and the engineers and the engineers review the 30%, when the design engineer finished the 30% plan, design plan, and then 60%. Between 60% and 90% where when NMDOT reviews the design plan, maybe it needs to be reviewed by BTAC, or maybe it needs to be reviewed by BTAC before it goes to the public for review, like ENN. Can someone make a motion or to reward that specific duties and responsibilities?
So Cal, I see your hand up.
Mr. Chair, may I make a motion?
Sure.
I move that we reword 4B2. The BTAC shall review preliminary designs for new public works projects involving public roadways and trails funded out of city, state, or federal sources to ensure design and construction complies with the city's commitment to make bicycling and walking safe, viable, and comfortable modes of transportation. Design plan reviews shall take place at 30%, 60%, and before the plans are presented to the public for comments or submitted for review to NMDOT.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Sky, your hand is up.
I think if we word it exactly as Cal spoke it, that would be referring to different points in time. So before the public reviews it and before NMDOT reviews it, are we saying we want to review each project twice or offer comment at that early phase and at that later phase before it gets sent to an NMDOT, or only once at that earlier phase? Personally,
so maybe
I think
Cal can clarify his motion.
Right. Personally, I mean, I think offering input once is probably enough. And I would say it's probably more important at that earlier phase rather than at the later phase. And if the city decides not to take our advice, then it does. And that's what it is. But I think that earlier phase where it's still cheap to implement bike and pedestrian infrastructure or considerations is more important than that later phase where it would be more expensive to change designs.
I'd consider that a friendly amendment. The reason I put in both was in the event that you do the 30% design and later on you find out you can't do it that way, or that you have to make modifications, it would give us a second look at it before anything was cast in asphalt. But you're the professional planner. If you think it's better to keep it to the early single pass review, I'm happy to accept that as a friendly amendment because you're the expert.
Well, I think the most important role that we play is making sure that bicycle and pedestrian considerations are taking place at all.
Sure.
And that could be done with maybe a more robust complete streets policy, or it could be, there's different avenues to that. But right now, I think what we have is BTAC, and I don't think we're in a position to really make sure that we're all super happy with it. But the fact that the engineers are taking into consideration bicycle and pedestrian needs, historically just hasn't happened. So that would be kind of a revolutionary, even if there's still like ways that we might not like it. We all like to look at what is that street behind Trader Joe's?
Oh yeah.
As sort of this.
Alta Vista, was it?
But in some ways, like that was a success in one way because it was, at least bicycles and pedestrians were considered, right? Maybe not in a satisfactory way, but I think, what we want to get is sort of this consideration where it otherwise isn't or may not otherwise take place.
So would it be appropriate to strike the 60% and just leave the rest of the wording?
I think so, because I think otherwise we're getting our fingers in the pie twice in every single project, and that just seems like it could be a lot of work and a lot of really technical stuff. And it might create sort of an adversarial relationship with the city where we're trying to do other people's jobs for them. And I think to really, have a good relationship with the city, we should speak once and trust the city to.
Okay. So is it appropriate, Mr. Chair, to just strike the 60% and leave the rest of the motion on the floor?
So out of your stated motion, we would strike the 60% and move forward with that. So that's your motion.
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second? And Romella, do you have the wording for the motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm recording the whole meeting, so I'll get the motion perfectly.
Great, thank you so much. Just want to make sure. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion on this motion? Cal, is your hand up still, or is that an old hand?
I just forgot to take it down.
Okay, no worries. I just want to make sure I don't miss anybody before we move into a vote. If there's no further questions, Romella, can you call the roll on this motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Member Eisenstein?
Yes, I vote yes.
Member Finger?
Yes.
Member Gabriel?
Yes.
Member Morlino? Member Morlino?
I see movement. I don't know if he's giving a thumbs up.
Member Serrano?
Yes.
Member Spencer?
Yes.
Member Tolman?
Yes.
Chair Garcia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you for that amendment. And any other discussion on the proposed resolution? So do we want to keep, because the way the proposed resolution stands, especially when we're talking about meeting, the way this proposal stands is that we would meet every other month. And so I don't know if folks are okay with that or if they want to strike that and keep it meeting monthly. Cal, your hand is up.
Mr. Chair, do we need a motion to keep it monthly?
Yes, because because this is the draft that's in front of us, so we would have to just strike every other month and go back.
I move that we strike the every other month and go back and retain meeting monthly with the discretion to cancel a meeting if you need that much detail.
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, we got a first and then a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Romella, would you go ahead and do a roll call vote, please?
Member Eisenstein?
Yes.
Member Finger?
Yes.
Member Gabriel?
Yes.
Member Morlino? Member Serrano?
Yes.
Member Spencer?
Yes.
Member Tolman?
Yes.
Chair Garcia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Romella. Any other comments in regards to the proposed resolution?
Yes.
Yes, Sky.
I'm looking back at 4B and also I. And one detail just occurred to me that it's not clear if this is review phases of the design of bicycle infrastructure projects or of projects that touch the bicycle network in the bicycle master plan, or now that we're also the pedestrian, we may become the pedestrian committee. The pedestrian master plan, I think, touches almost every part of the city. So I think we might want to clarify. Maybe we could review exactly the words that that we have from Carl, so that it would include things like the reconstruction of Osage, which touches the bicycle network in the BMP, because it's not clear that this would be triggered there or not.
Romella?
Mr. Chair, Member Tolman, 4.F is review and recommend updates to bicycle master plan, pedestrian master plan, metropolitan transportation plan, parks master plan related to trails, and the city's land use development code as it pertains to bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure and associated regulations. With regards to bicycle network, in the whereas, just before the section 1, section 2, I think it's on page 2. The last whereas is, whereas the New Mexico Department of Transportation has defined bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure to include bicycle lanes, including protected and buffered lanes, bicycle parking and storage facilities, curb extensions, intersection treatments such as bicycle boxes, stop bars, lead signal indicators, landscaping, paved shoulders, pedestrian and bicyclist scale lighting, pedestrian overpasses or underpasses, separation, buffers, shared lane markings or sharrows, sidewalks, signage, especially high visibility signage, signalized pedestrian crossings and mid-block crossings, and trails or shared use paths. So any project that is about this bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure or network would be reviewed.
Okay, and that would include, I mean, I'm thinking there are streets that are on the bicycle master plan as bicycle routes that I think don't actually have anything there, right? So if there's not currently shared lane markings or lanes or whatnot, then it might then it wouldn't count, right? So like to recommend new infrastructure where currently there's no infrastructure, that would sort of be excluded, correct?
I'm not, I don't think, or I believe not, Mr. Chair, Member Tolman.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify if that would exclude projects where currently there's no bicycle or pedestrian infrastructure, but it's maybe part of a planned future growth of the network.
Mr. Chair, Member Tolman, I don't believe so, because of it's very well stated and clearly stated in 4.F that you have the duty and responsibility to review the bicycle master plan and pedestrian master plan. So it includes new, proposed, or repair or maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does it help to clarify for you, Sky? Okay, fantastic. Any other questions on the proposed resolution? Do we want to take action and recommend this resolution? Oh, I see some hands up. Sky and Cal. I don't know if those are old or new.
I had one more question, and I don't think it's a recommendation to change the wording of the resolution. But I think in the past, we've kind of juggled with being a proactive or reactive body. And if we were interested in being proactive in, let's say, getting a city council resolution or, advocating for a city policy, how does BTAC do that? I feel like in the past, we've kind of toyed with that and not maybe gone through the right channels or not been particularly effective. And we've sort of brought up ideas and then kind of found out, oh, well, we didn't bring them up in the right order to the right people, or and I think we've been fairly clumsy. So maybe we could just clarify. Let's say we wanted to proactively recommend something like a policy to the city council. How do we do that?
Romella, feel free to chime in and then I'll follow you.
Mr. Chair, Member Tolman. So the BTAC is a recommending body. You have no power to make decision for the city or for the governing body. Governing body makes the decision. So what we will do is we will recommend policy, and that's 4.C in your duties and responsibilities. We will draft the language, and then it will be voted by the committee members. Are you recommending that to the governing body to be a resolution or an ordinance and whatnot? And then it will go to Public Works. It will be reviewed by Public Works, the language, and then by Finance, and then the governing body for approval. It needs to be introduced by, in this case, the chair, because he is the chair of BTAC. So this resolution, if you will notice, it will be introduced by Chair Michael Garcia. And maybe at that point in time, other councilors will also join Chair Garcia in sponsoring this resolution.
Okay, so let's say we wanted to propose a policy. Would I draft language and then email it to Councilor Garcia, and then he would do what he likes with it and then email it to you to send out to the committee to share before discussing it at a meeting? Or would that, what would the internal discussion look like in sort of the formulation process, since we can't really meet formally outside of our scheduled meetings?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Member Tolman. So what we will put it, or we will include it on the agenda, because this meeting must be open to public. So it will be under discussion and action items. And maybe that member can produce the packet. Why are you suggesting this policy change or new policy regarding bicycling and pedestrian?
So that would be sent first to you then, and then it would go in the packet and it would be discussed for as many meetings as it takes to discuss it.
My responsibility is to draft agenda and submit it to the chair for his approval and publish it. So we don't violate the OMA requirement of publishing the agenda 3 days in advance.
Okay. So let's say we wanted to propose a policy. Would I draft language and then email it to Councilor Garcia, and then he would do what he likes with it and then email it to you to send out to the committee to discuss it before discussing it at a meeting?
So
Does that help, Sky?
Yes.
Okay, so great. Next on my list of hands up was Cal, and then Yolanda after Cal.
Just a point of order, do we need a motion to approve the, or this document as amended?
We would make a recommendation to, the BTAC would make a recommendation to approve this proposed resolution.
Okay, does that need to take the form of a motion or just the sense of the committee?
I think that would need to be a motion, if I'm not mistaken, Romella. I mean, if we want to move forward with the recommendation of BTAC. If we don't make a recommendation, if we don't make a motion, then BTAC isn't putting their stamp of approval on it, so to speak.
I'm happy to move that we approve the document as amended.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Romella, any discussion? Sorry. Okay, no other discussion? Romella, will you please do a roll call?
Member Eisenstein?
Yes.
Member Finger?
Yes.
Member Gabriel?
Yes.
Member Morlino?
Yes.
Member Serrano?
Yes.
Member Spencer?
Yes.
Member Tolman?
Yes, and Eric Ani has his hand up, so.
Chair Garcia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Romella. And Eric, I apologize that the discussion, I didn't see that. Did you have a point that you wanted to make, or?
I did, and I think it's an important one, if I may.
Sure, absolutely.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, as it relates to Sky Tallman's question regarding the process of bringing things to the city's attention, I think it's important to note and for the record that the city has systemically or sort of procedurally and prescriptively asked that any consideration of policy or programs be first run through the MPO's master plans, including the pedestrian master plan, the bicycle master plan, the transit master plan, and then the overall metropolitan transportation plan. What that does in effect, it protects the city from sort of arbitrary efforts. It really does support what the MPO has been observing, that the county and the city has really supported those master plans to the fullest extent. And so for the record, I think it would be just a prescriptive step to say, if you're going to bring something before the city council, that it has been articulated in one of the plans. And if it hasn't, maybe it needs to be articulated that why it hasn't. So that is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I appreciate the clarification. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to item 8C, reorganization of Bicycle and Trails Advisory Committee subcommittees, including purpose, mandate formulation, chair, and membership appointments. Romella, did you want to give background info on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. BTAC has two subcommittees, namely on-road and education subcommittees. However, staff liaison could not find any written documents for these subcommittees' mandates and memberships. The only information we have are the chair's names, Mr. Steve Newhall for on-road and Jennifer Wellington for education. Both are former BTAC members. Based on the minutes for the past year, only Mr. Newhall reported to BTAC regularly. Resolution number 2010-64 authorizes the creation of subcommittees to study in depth the responsibilities assigned to the committee, and to present such information to the committee. The subcommittee shall be made up of no more than 4 members of the committee and 3 interested members of the public. The subcommittee shall engage solely in investigating and assembling facts for the committee, shall only be advisory in nature, and shall not formulate public policy on behalf of the committee. The recommendation of the staff is to, based on the amended committee's purpose, duties, and responsibilities, staff recommends to form 2 subcommittees. And again, Mr. Chair, these are just recommendations. First subcommittee is Planning, Policy, and Funding Subcommittee, which will be the lead in implementing sections 4.A, 4.B as amended, 4.C, 4.F, and 4.G, and I. And the second subcommittee is Promotion, Education, and Programming, which will be the lead in implementing sections 4.D, E, H, and J. Although all BTAC members need to fulfill all the committee's duties and responsibilities from sections 4.A through point J, these 2 subcommittees will be responsible for undertaking in-depth analysis of plans, policies, programs, resolutions, and ordinances, either existing or proposed, and make recommendations to the committee. Further, although there is no requirement that the chair of each subcommittee must be a BTAC member, staff liaison recommends that the chairs be sitting members of BTAC. Staff liaison further recommends that subcommittee chairs and memberships be nominated and appointed at this meeting. For members at large, staff liaison will email the 11 unsuccessful BTAC applicants and former BTAC members asking if they wish to be a member of the subcommittee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Romela, for that update. Does anybody have any discussion on this? So let me first provide some additional context. So as Romela mentioned, we do have 2 current subcommittees, but because we've not been able to determine the purpose of these subcommittees, the intention would be to dissolve these 2 subcommittees and develop 2 new subcommittees. We want to ensure that we are following the guidance set forth by the prior resolution. And so with that, I think that's the intention behind this. So with that, I see some hands up. I see Cal with your hand up.
I apologize. I forgot to bring it down.
Okay, perfectly fine. Yolanda, your hand is up.
Yeah, Chair Garcia, I have one recommendation on the subcommittees. I would propose that instead of the Planning, Policy, and Fundraising Subcommittee, we pull policy out of that and create a Law and Policy Subcommittee. And what that subcommittee would do speaks a little bit to what Skye was talking about. I would like to see having a subcommittee that looks at policies, not what the committee does, what we do, but basically monitoring laws, legislation, case law, things that are happening in the city, as well as things that are happening throughout the state. So, you know, I would be happy to chair a committee like that. And every month at the meeting, the subcommittee would just report on anything that we saw that was happening in the state or in the city that we might want to address that, you know, we weren't told about. So it's sort of a proactive way to look at what's going on in other government entities. And given my access to legal databases, it would be, you know, fairly simple for me to do that. When the legislature starts, I would monitor the bills that were coming through And if there's something that is important to our committee, you know, I would bring it up. And so that would be a subcommittee in and of itself. So I think we would, instead of having two, I would propose at this point that we had 3 subcommittees.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. Do we have any other members with comments or feedback on this agenda item? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Romella, do we need to take action on this, or how do you recommend we move forward?
We need someone to move that there will be 3 to dissolve the 2 subcommittees, namely on road and education, and form 3 subcommittees, namely planning and fundraising, law and policy, and promotion, education, and programming subcommittees. And then we'll deal later with the chair and memberships because they are kind of appointed by the chair.
Okay, thank you, Romella, for that clarification. So would anybody like to entertain a motion?
Well, I'll be happy to move that we have 3 subcommittees: planning and fundraising, law and policy, and promotion, education, and programming subcommittees, and that we dissolve the 2 existing subcommittees.
Okay. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, Cal was the second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Romella, can we go ahead and do a roll call vote?
Member Eisenstein?
Yes.
Member Finger?
Yes.
Member Gabriel?
Yes.
Member Morlino?
Yes.
Member Serrano?
Yes.
Member Spencer?
Yes.
Member Tallman?
Yes.
Chair Garcia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on to agenda item 8D. And first up is D1, section 12-8-15, riding on sidewalks.
Excuse me,
Romella,
Mr. Chair.
oh, sorry about that.
Mr. Chair, can we have the chairs of these 3 subcommittees and memberships up to 4 BTAC members for each member, for each subcommittee? And you can just appoint them. We don't need a motion.
Okay, do we have to appoint them now, or can we have folks express interest and I do an appointment outside of this meeting, or do we have to?
I'm afraid, Mr. Chair, you need to do it now because the appointment of chairs and members needs to be at a meeting. It's an open meeting.
Absolutely, perfectly fine with that. So for the first committee, which was the planning and fundraising committee, do we have any folks that would like to nominate themselves for the chair of that subcommittee?
I'll nominate myself.
Okay, thank you, Sky. Any other nominations for chair of that subcommittee? Okay, last call, chair of the planning and fundraising. Okay, with none heard, we'll go ahead and appoint Sky as the chair of that subcommittee. Any members of the committee want to participate in that subcommittee? And we need to appoint how many, Romella? Up to 4? Okay.
I'll be on that subcommittee.
Okay, so we'll appoint Yolanda Einstein to that subcommittee. Any other requests, nominations for that subcommittee? And we can always come back and nominate more folks to the subcommittee. And we'll also include those public committee members after they express interest. Okay, so the next subcommittee was the Law and Policy.
I'd like to chair that one.
Okay, any other nominations for the chair? Okay, last call for nominations for the Law and Policy Subcommittee. Okay, I'll go ahead and appoint Ms. Yolanda Einstein as the chair of the Law and Policy Committee. Any committee members want to participate in that subcommittee?
I'd like to participate.
Okay, we'll go and have Sky.
I would also, Councilman.
Okay, we'll go ahead and appoint Bruce as well. And we can do one more member should they want to participate. Okay, hearing no other, we'll go ahead and move on to the next one, which is the Promotion, Education, and Programming Subcommittee. Do I have any nominations for a chair of that subcommittee? Any nominations for chair? And if we don't make any nominations, we can circle back around to this next meeting. Any nominations for chair? Okay, so hearing none, Romella, we'll go ahead and put this on the next agenda for our next meeting. Does that cover the item 8D? Was it 8D or 8C? I'm sorry, I'm pulling up the agenda. 8C, does that cover everything for 8C for us?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Do we need to get members on that committee? Even though there's
well,
no
we
chair?
didn't. We would need somebody to guide the committee process. So we would need a chair for that committee.
Okay.
So if, yeah, well, we'll come back around to that. Now, item 8D, which is the review of the ordinance number 2011-23, amending various sections of the City of Santa Fe Uniform Traffic Ordinance related to bicycles. And there's part 1. And Romella, I think you are on behalf of a community member.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So for the past few months from June till August, a member of the public or a citizen or a resident of the City of Santa Fe has been requesting the chair and the staff liaison to please amend the section 12-8-15, riding on sidewalks. But she sent me an email to formally request it, and I need to read it to the committee. So the email was sent on September 8 at 6:37 p.m. and the subject is official request by Anya. September 8, 2020. I am requesting the city, first through BTAC, Public Works, Finance, and then the governing body, to review and amend Section 12-815, riding on sidewalks of City Ordinance number 20-11-23 that allows bicycling on sidewalks. My specific request is for the city to prohibit the riding of bicycles on sidewalks. This needs to be changed. Sidewalks are for use of pedestrians. Bicycles are vehicles, and vehicles are to be used on roadways, not sidewalks. The city has many designated bike trails and bike lanes marked on the city's roadways for bicyclists to use. I am requesting BTAC recommend this most necessary change for the safety of pedestrians like me. I have sent numerous emails to the BTAC chair and its staff liaison that this ordinance be changed. The specific stretch of sidewalk that I use frequently and have been repeatedly placed in bodily danger by bicyclists using the same sidewalk is along East Alameda Street, adjacent to the Santa Fe River from Old Santa Fe Trail to Palace Avenue. I reside at El Castillo and walk from my residence along this stretch. The city is reminded that this specific stretch of East Alameda Street has already been designated as a shared roadway. So the bicyclists have a designated approved roadway on which to bicycle. I will not be attending the meeting on September 10, 2020, and I am requesting staff liaison to read my numerous emails in which I documented repeated incidents of dangerous interactions between bicyclists using the sidewalk and me walking on the sidewalk. I am requesting again that all these emails become public record. Please delete my telephone number and email address. My residence address is 250 East Alameda Street, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87501. So it is true that Ms. Ann Young has sent the chair and me about 10 emails, and I included it in the packet so that all the members can read it. Basically, for safety reason, she wants to, or she's requesting to amend this section 12-8-15 to prohibit bicycling on sidewalks.
Okay, thank you, Romella. Do we have any comments from the committee?
I have, oh, go ahead, Sky.
Okay, so we'll go from Sky and then to Judith.
I think this person's letter points to a shortcoming of this part of the street for bicycles and pedestrians. And as the letter that we read at the beginning of our meeting suggested, the sidewalk could probably be widened, or the bicycle facilities could probably be improved so that they feel safe to everybody. But when you have bicycles riding on the sidewalks, it's indicative of a problem, a safety problem on the road, not a regulatory problem of where bicycles are allowed or not allowed. So I would emphatically oppose making a recommendation to change the ordinance to disallow bicycles on sidewalks across the city. As it stands, the ordinance states that no person shall ride a bicycle on any sidewalk when signs are posted prohibiting the riding of bicycles on the sidewalk. So in specific cases, if the city feels that there's a need to keep bicycles and pedestrians separate, that can be done. There's already a provision for doing that. If this particular road is deemed to be one of those cases, then that can be done. But I think there's enough cases where the sidewalk is the only safe option or the best safe option that many riders feel is available to them, that it should be left as an available option.
Okay, thank you, Sky. Judith, you were next.
Yes, I agree with what Sky said about there's a reason for cycling on the sidewalk. I cycle on sections of St. Mike's on the sidewalk where I don't feel safe being in the street. So I think that's an important point. And I have a question about B, when signs are posted requiring bicycles to use sidewalks or paths adjacent to a street, no person shall ride a bike on the street adjacent to the sidewalk or path. Do we know where those locations are? It seems like a bike path next to the street may not be the same as a sidewalk. So I'm just curious about when that might occur. And that I think that would just be interesting to know. Does anybody know where those locations are?
Romella?
As per MPO, Mr. Eric Oni, only the sidewalks on downtown plaza the bicycles are prohibited.
So I was asking about where it's requiring bikes to use a sidewalk or a path. I'm confused about that.
We could not find it in any of the ordinance. We did the research, and Mr. Eric Onik, if you could please help me because you're the MPO.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Judith, can you recite again what section you're referring to?
I can help, Eric. It is section B, and it states when signs are posted requiring bicycles to use sidewalks or paths adjacent to a street, no person shall ride a bicycle on the street adjacent to the sidewalks or paths.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think I can answer that on behalf of the city. There are no such scenarios in which this ordinance is applicable to date. If it is a placeholder, if in effect, that if there is an opportunity to do such things I would submit for safety, health, and welfare of all users, then it could be in place. But there's no practical use of this at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hopefully that helped, Judith. Any other questions on the matter or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to Bruce and then to Rob.
Just a real minor point. I agree with Sky, but in her letters, Ms. Young refers to a bicycle as a vehicle, and it's not. Under the vehicle code, it says description of a vehicle is, she states part of it, but leaves out the last part, which says except devices moved exclusively by human power. And that would be a bicycle. That's all I have, Counselor.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Rob, and then we'll go to Yolanda.
My points were made subsequently. I just want to support kind of what Sky and what's been previously said, that and also just that it's an unfortunate situation to some degree that bikes are forced onto sidewalks in Santa Fe, but unfortunately I don't think we have the infrastructure protected lanes that would allow for the prohibition of it. So.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Yolanda.
Yes, and this relates to the next agenda item, and this may be something that we don't want to get into right now since it's late, but you know, having e-bikes on the sidewalk is extremely dangerous, and we need to think about what our recommendation is going to be in that respect. These bikes, class 3 bikes, will go over 30 miles an hour. And, you know, I think that I haven't been able to find anything. I did a brief search of ordinances and laws in the state, and I don't see anything. There are various states and jurisdictions that have already addressed the issue. But I mean, it goes from, like in this ordinance, the definition of a bicycle. We're going to have to make a recommendation of what we think an e-bike is. There are 3 different classes. So this is an issue that we're going to have to deal with, because it's one thing to have a kid on a sidewalk, and it's something else to have someone who may be just riding an e-bike for the first time. I know 2 people who have had serious accidents. So they're kind of dangerous to the people who are riding them if they're inexperienced. So I just bring that up as maybe something we would want to table for now and have a discussion later. Or, you know, I'm happy to do some more research on various ordinances and laws in other jurisdictions. But, you know, I think that's something that we're going to have to address that's different from a regular bike.
Okay, thank you, Yolanda. Next, Bruce, your hand was up. Judith, and I see Sky's physical hand. Oh, there's a digital hand as well. So we'll Bruce, Judith, and then Sky.
I apologize. I forgot to take it down. I'll take it down now.
Okay, no worries. Judith?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a role for the promotion and education committee here, which is not formed yet, but there could be an education campaign about pedestrian and bicycle safety on sidewalks. So just a thought.
Okay, thank you, Judith. Sky?
I think to Yolanda's point, there's like certainly a real concern there. I think as far as regulations go, that's already addressed in our current ordinance by saying that bicycles must yield to pedestrians. So if a person was riding an e-bike 30 miles an hour on a sidewalk and did not yield to a pedestrian, that would already be a problem. So I think regulation wise, that's already addressed. In terms of human behavior, maybe not. I mean, there could be a real danger, but I think that would already be a violation.
Well,
okay. Thank you, Sky. Yolanda?
Just one thing that I think we might want to consider is the definition of bicycle means every device propelled by human power. And so we have a definition of a bicycle that doesn't include an e-bike. So how do we include e-bikes in the definition of a bicycle? It
Right.
says human power in there. So
right. I understand that, but let's wait till we get to that agenda item because we're currently discussing the sidewalk issue for us. Any other discussion on the matter in regards to the constituent bringing forth the request to change the ordinance allowing riding on sidewalks? We don't have to make a motion. We can leave it as is, but we took it under consideration. Okay, and I don't see any other hands going up, so we will go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, which is e-bikes. Member Einstein, the floor is yours.
yeah, I'm not going to take a lot of everybody's time. I know it's getting late, but there are some issues with e-bikes that I think the committee needs to consider. I've looked, as I said, just a cursory look at some other jurisdictions, and there are special ordinances and laws that are being drafted related to e-bikes. Some of the things that are being addressed are ages that you can ride an e-bike, if it's a class 1, class 2, or class 3, helmet requirements on 16-year-olds. I mean, there's just some issues that I think we need to consider going forward, and being proactive rather than reactive, I think is probably a good thing. Some of these bikes go very fast, 30 miles an hour, unassisted. And if you're pedaling, you can go even faster. So, I just feel that as the bicycle committee, advisory committee, we need to either form a subcommittee or we need to think about how we are going to advise the city council or others who want to know what about the e-bikes, because they are a bit different than a regular bike. And so it's just my recommendation that we come up with some plan for making some recommendations and kind of coalesce behind some, advice on how they should be handled.
Okay, Thank you, Yolanda.
Oh,
I
and
see
just one
some
more
hands
thing.
going up. Sure.
Yeah, just one more point is the sales. I looked at the sales, and from 2017 to 2018, sales went from 263,000 to 400,000. Currently, sales are up 50%. So people are buying these bicycles in record numbers. Okay, I'll shut up.
Oh no, the floor is yours. But thank you for that additional information. Rob, your hand is up.
I think in similar vein to Sky's point earlier, I want to make sure that we're not trying to legislate something that's already legislated. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in this whole state of New Mexico, and I know this isn't enforced very well, but anybody, and an e-bike is, I believe, bicycle under state law, that anybody under the age of 18 is already supposed to wear a helmet, if I'm not mistaken. I also think there are, yielding laws for shared walkways that could be better enforced. And if I'm not mistaken, and maybe Eric Lonnie or somebody can help me, I think there is maybe codified a speed limit even for conventional bikes on our bike paths. I understand that e-bikes do allow more people to go faster, but I do think they're also important for accessibility reasons for people who may have had injuries or handicaps, and it allows more people to cycle and, when they're in the street, match the speed of traffic. I also think on the classes of bikes, I believe class 3 bikes are limited at 28 miles. They're under 30 miles an hour, which I do believe is still too fast to be going on sidewalks or bike lanes. But I wonder, especially on the speed point, if there are existing speed limits or speed restrictions on those paths, this may be more an enforcement issue than a legislative one, is the only thing I wonder. But I do want to make sure that, or express that I think e-bikes can be treated and considered as something that allows more people to get into cycling and use cycling even under some electrical assist for commuting and transportation. So I hope we consider ways to increase accessibility and safety for all on this matter, because they are a growing trend, as Yolanda pointed out. And but I do think that it deserves careful consideration.
Okay, thank you, Rob, for the comments and feedback. Any other members? Let me take a look. I see Sky's hand up. Sky, the floor is yours.
Yolanda, I think this might be a really good topic for initiating the subcommittee that you're going to chair, the law and policy. And then we could come back to the committee in the future with the best and the brightest ideas from around the country.
Yes, I think this is exactly what I had in mind for the committee. The subcommittee is to look at what other jurisdictions are doing, look at maybe some of the issues and problems, any case law. I just think it's certainly an appropriate subject, and I'm not suggesting that we try to ban them or anything. I think that what we need to do is say, okay, we know this is happening, and have a position.
Just a point of a question, maybe for Rommela or for you, Mike. If the subcommittees meet, is that something that we have to announce, or should we announce now when the subcommittees will meet? So are those kind of public meetings that other people should be invited to attend, or how? Or do we just send an email to the subcommittee members and then just decide to meet at a whim?
Mr. Chair, Member Tallman, that's the very reason why the limit for BTAC members in subcommittees only 4, because the quorum is 5. So if there will be 5 members of BTAC in a subcommittee, then we need to follow the OMA or the Open Meetings Act. But because there are only 4 members of BTAC, we don't need to follow the OMA. And there will be another 3 from the public or members at large.
Okay, any other comments on the agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and move on to the
Eric
next
Ani
agenda.
had something to say. Sorry. He was just
Oh,
raising his
sorry,
hand.
Eric.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this is an issue that's absolutely fascinating to me. New Mexico e-bike law, for example, e-bikes are defined statewide as mopeds, which are motor vehicles. The city of Santa Fe and its laws are effectively silent on e-bikes. My point would be that I'd be interested in working with Yolanda or any other individuals on what we could do to tighten up or consider e-bikes. And I apologize for the background noise. It's dinner time. Anyway, my point is that right now, there's not a lot of law or regulations that really contemplate e-bikes. And we'd be happy to work on a subcommittee or any effort to consider those issues. As e-bikes are becoming much more popular, as evidenced as anybody seeing it on the road. In fact, I'm wanting to buy one myself. So, that is all. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Eric. I appreciate the feedback. I think that was it. I don't see any other hands up. So let's go ahead and move on to the last item in this section, which is item E, underpass safety, risk mitigations and corrective actions for St. Francis Cerrillos Tunnel and future St. Michael's Drive Rail Trail Underpass. And Member Spencer brought this forward. So Member Spencer, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'd like to make this very brief given the hour. Given that either tunnels or bridges are pretty important to getting connectivity of our major trails across our major urban arterials, the recent negative publicity that was given to the St. Francis Cerrillos Trail was a little concerning, especially since one of our councilors stated in the press that that councilor would not want to fund any further tunnels. My concern is that given the constraints of some of our land use in terms of how the relative size and probably cost of a tunnel versus a bridge, in terms of the size of a bridge, given the AASHTO or was it MUTCD guidance on how high a bridge has to be off the road versus how shallow the approaches have to be to accommodate Americans with Disabilities Act. If we let the concerns or the fears of tunnels rule the decision making, that may become a problem. So I think it's important to work with the police who are just starting to gather data, and to work with the designers in terms of environmental friendly design to reduce crime, to make some embellishment, possibly by the policy committee or the education committee, as to what we are doing to make trails safer in their entirety, and to make sure that these crossings, whether we use tunnels or bridges, are not only cost effective and good design, but are not contributing to either actual crime or the fear of crime. I don't think we have enough data right now to make any calls on that. What I would suggest we do is we assign the question of trail safety in general and tunnel versus bridge accommodation in particular to one or more of the subcommittees to look into this and come back in the future. I'd suggest we work with the pardon me, the police department and possibly the public safety advisory committee of the city to look into this and come back with some BTAC recommendations on how best to approach this from the policy and education perspective. We're not going to design tunnels, but if we're going to use them, I think the public has to have the perception that we're doing the best we can to make them safe. And this is sort of a multimodal thing. Part of it will go to the design of the tunnels, part of it will go to how much we put into enforcement and observation. So I don't want to belabor the point right now. I think there's too much to learn at this point. So I would recommend putting it into one of the subcommittees. I'm glad to work on it, whichever one we put it in.
Okay. Thank you, Cal. Any further discussion on the agenda item. Okay, I appreciate you bringing this forth, Cal, and we can look at getting it assigned to a committee for further review.
Sure, whatever committee it is on, I guess I'm on that committee, as long as the chairs don't mind.
I'm sure they won't.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the agenda, matters from staff. Ms. Glorioso Mas, anything?
None at this time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Matters from the committee. If you have any matters, please raise your hand or wave them. That way I can, I see two. I see Sky and then Judith.
One thing that I think, I mean, given the hour, maybe we can discuss at our next meeting is I take issue to the kind of the nature of the solution that the city found to solve the debate of making part of San Francisco Street pedestrian only. I think the decision to charge adjacent business owners wouldn't have been made or isn't made for any other kind of traffic modulation or change of traffic patterns. And I think that could be an issue that would pertain to this committee at our next meeting. So I'd like to put that on the agenda for our next meeting.
Sure, great. Judith, and then we'll go to Yolanda.
I just have a question, and it's regarding the bicyclist that was killed recently on Yucca. And I'm wondering if this committee plays a role in understanding what happened, or if we are privy to that information, so that if we need to adjust or create any kind of education campaign or safety campaign, is that a role for this committee?
So I can take that one. So I'm assuming that there's probably still an investigation going on into the matter, which we would be privy to that information until it's completed. As a committee, we can request that information and review that report and make determinations and recommendations potentially based off of that report. But I think, yeah, the premise of your question is, could we play a role in that? And I think, yes, we can look at what happened, what were the determining factors, and is there ways where we can improve bicyclist safety in the city?
Yeah, and just, is that a standard role for this committee, or has it not been? Since I'm new to the committee, I don't know if that's a standard practice. Say, if there is a serious crash or a fatality, is that something that is typically taken up once we have the information? That
I couldn't answer that for you, Judith, just because, just like you, I'm in 6 months. I think we're fortunate in the sense that there hasn't been an incident where a bicyclist died this past year, so it hasn't come before this committee. I'd have to do some investigation to see what reaction the committee took in the past when such an unfortunate incident happened. And we can get back to you on that, and unless maybe some of our longer tenure members have any further clarification on that. Doesn't seem like so. But we can discuss this further, Judith. Once the report is available, we can make sure that's an agenda item on a future meeting.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Member Einstein.
This is just a quick FYI. I live off of Bishop's Lodge, and one of my neighbors has gotten a group of about 30 neighbors together, and they are going to approach the city council about the speed on Bishop's Lodge and how it's not pedestrian friendly or bike friendly. So I don't know if this is something that will come before our advisory committee, but I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that, you know, he's getting neighbors together. And there was an op-ed in the newspaper last Sunday where he was talking about the speed, and it's not very bike friendly. So just an FYI.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other members from the committee with their hands up. So last call before I move forward. Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to matters from the chair. Just once again, it's great to see everybody. I wish we were seeing each other in person, but hopefully soon enough. There is, I think, a proposal to potentially postpone some meetings, but I think our committee should not be affected in regards. We're in an ordinance that we're to meet every month, so I will provide an update. Romella, can we look into that? I don't know if that has kind of come down, but I know that there has been a request to maybe postpone some meetings, and I've adamantly fought that BTAC needs to continue to meet. So please stay tuned on that front. No other, I guess, announcements for me. Just please, everybody, be safe out there. I know it's a different time, and we've all got changing habits that have adapted to these different times. And I just look forward to continue to work with everybody on this, and welcome again to the new members, and welcome to the reappointed members. And Cal, congratulations on your vice chair appointment. With that, our next meeting is going to be Thursday, October 8th. And if you do have any recommendations for agenda items, please work with Romella on that, and we'll get them on the agenda. With that, we'll go ahead and conclude the meeting. And so thank you very much, everybody. Have a safe night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Right.